Greetings. I'm Lori NewBreast for the Native Wellness Power Hour today. And I would like to just acknowledge the sponsors of the Power Hour on this Wednesday. And I had to write it down because it's, you know how we love acronyms in Indian country. So sometimes we shorten people's, really the description that they prefer, how to describe their existence. So today's Power Hour is sponsored by the Urban Indian Health Institute of Seattle Indian Health Board. And Seattle is in Washington State. Just a little joke there. So today, the title of my Power Hours, It Will Be Okay. And you notice we're starting a few minutes late. And I would just like to say that sometimes, you know, the role of social media in our life, you have to remain flexible, but you also have to just say, it's going to be okay. So many times in social media, with how they are all changing up their existence too, right? They were in the pandemic too. And social media is generated by human beings. So when they come up with a fantastic new algorithm, or they are trying to protect themselves now from, it's kind of like back in the wagon days or the street days when a lot of people walked on the street. Remember that? Like 2019. You would have to be cautious in some places. But with the internet now, people have an overabundance of caution, you know. Oh, people are going to track you. They're going to so it's kind of like people just have to do the best they can. And that includes all the free platforms. So when they change an algorithm, somehow they don't always include me in that message. So I just want to apologize for starting late today, but I was looking forward to being with people through this medium, because this medium has really changed how, you know, how I was able to live the last year and still remain connected, you know, not flesh and blood connected, but through messages, stories, interactions, people that have been fortunate enough to either be in trainings with, or online conferences, or just Zoom meetings with colleagues, friends, family, just to make sure that we stay connected. And really, many times if I say my wellness journey, I would say it began, you know, like a couple hundred years ago, before, because I also, when I came to be a part of the living generation, I became the recipient of the wisdom of my ancestors. I became the bearer of their hopes and dreams, that my very existence was because somebody maintained, somebody survived, somebody said a prayer for future generations, somebody taught another person a song, a dance, a material, cultural skill and craft. And you know, I have a lot of different types of friends. You know, I don't discriminate. If I like you, I like you, you know, and I don't care, you know, what your credit rating is, or how many shoes you have, or stuff like that, or, you know, what color your hair is, how long it is, or whatever. You know, so I know a lot of people, a lot of different people. And I was thinking about this because I was off. They let me off the reservation yesterday. No, that's a joke. But I was off the reservation in a town over the mountains that is being really repopulated by people that didn't live here prior to the pandemic, and it's tourist season. It's warming up, except for we expect snow later today. But I noticed that this huge new shoe store had opened up. And so I was with my mom, who, and she goes, "Oh, yeah, I used to love to have a lot of shoes, and she did have a lot of shoes as an adult, but not as a child. So I started thinking about that in the pandemic, a lot of people were concerned with, because we're moving around much more, like they had a shoe for every occasion. Sometimes they had 2, 3 pair of shoes for the different course of the day. They may have had special shoes for their employment, for their fun time, for their recreation time. If they had to pay for movement, like in a gym or something, they had those shoes. They just had a lot of shoes. And so I started thinking about that this morning when I was, preparing and living my day before the power hour. And I thought, no matter how many shoes you have or that you've worn over the last year, if we look at the importance of footprints or how we took care of our feet, how our ancestors took care of our feet, and in some special occasions now, or in instances, people do wear the traditional footwear. So for my people, it was moccasins. And I started thinking about that we will never really be in need of shoes as long as somebody knows how to make moccasins, and as long as they teach somebody else to make moccasins. And then I heard, stories of like when we faced other really trying times, and when violence came to our world, and how, that children were able to escape that violence because they were able to, even though they didn't have a moccasin on, they were able to go out and reconstruct a shoe that enabled them to travel over the snow. And so sometimes when in this medium, people have now started to, and YouTube is full of this, but also in communities, to reteach people skills that our people, it's more than just, how to thread a needle or how to thread a sinew to a bone needle or to create your own owl. It's more than that. It's about those relationships of those very products to the animal world, to the natural world, to the physical food that we receive from the natural world, that enables us to prepare all of those things for traditional use. And so I was really thinking about that, because I didn't know that big old shoe store, opened up. So me and my mom strolled in there, and in this huge, thousands of shoes, there were only 4 customers, and that included me and my mom. So I thought, maybe something's going on. Maybe some people, you kind of have your Lucky Charm shoes from the first year of the pandemic, or your slippers, and those, they've carried you this far, the footsteps that you've walked through this last year. And as long as there is somebody teaching about traditional footwear, or you yourself, maybe you want to start making your own shoes. It's possible now. But we were always going to have shoes, something to cover our feet, something to carry us through the seasons of the year. And in wellness, if I talk about when I first heard that word, I would say in the early 1990s. And I really only heard that English word used among Indigenous people. I didn't hear it, um, like if I went to the doctor or the clinic, I didn't hear wellness at all. And wellness came like, it was, if you want to say, it was like the harvest or the new growth season of, as Indigenous people and American Indians, Alaskan Natives in the US geopolitical atmosphere started to recover from those things that in the past disrupted our world. And so I wanted to talk about like what that English word, what actions led to that wellness, that now you see wellness a lot. People have wellness events, people have wellness fairs, people start new organizations, and somewhere in that phrasing will be wellness. And so I would say in less than, or maybe in 30 years, in the past 30 years, I've seen that word. First, it was a few actions that it was describing, like the mental, physical, emotional, and psychological uh, um, wellness of a person, and then the spiritual wellness of the person, and using the English language to start talking about putting aside those things that don't work for us. And um, I think I've had the privilege in my life to, I spent a lot of time with elders from many, many cultures and from my own community. And one time, one of the elders, I'll just do a Q&A, and he was going to open up to this conference room at a tribal college, a Q&A, and anyone could ask him any cultural question or any question that they wanted. And he was excited to do that. So somebody asked him, it just led to this brilliant discussion. Somebody asked him, how come people are always bringing groceries to elders' houses? And he kind of laughed and he said, like, because we're people of necessity. And I always take that. So he talked about how people would bring coffee, they'd bring meat, they'd bring something to go with that meat for my people. I know there must be a tribe of vegans out there, but that's not the Nisweet I know. So, but oftentimes they would bring other things like a blanket, cloth. They may, and to us, I had it explained by many people, and this is sometimes how I view it. Money, cash. Remember, for the young people, cash was this thing that was like printed on a piece of paper, but now it's just a swipe. I don't know, maybe the elders need somebody to hook them up with a square. So if somebody brings them groceries and stuff to their house, they could give them some cash, they could swipe their square. But we gave money because money was just another product of necessity. But we were giving it with that intention, knowing that whatever happened after that, it was going to be okay, because we were honoring that relationship. We were participating in keeping that person, knowing that we cared for them, knowing that not just that we're saying from our mouth, we love you, we respect you, we honor you. It was the very action that we would give something or we would bring something to them without the expectation that, that they would give us what we wanted, because whatever happened after that, if you shared a cup of tea, if you shared a meal, that was how it was going to be okay. So our actions were ones to keep people connected. And so, as the wellness movement has changed, and prior to the pandemic, there became these circles all over the world, not just for our Indigenous community, but these circles all over the world where people would leave, their communities, and they would come together. They would bring that energy of, we want our people to walk walk in wellness. We want everybody, but we ourselves also have to tend. We need to go to maybe this conference or this gathering or this retreat, or learn a special skill, get certified, something to contribute to the overall good. And those were natural, if you want to say organic developments. Based upon that is that we want to create like the energy where everybody is okay. And during this last year, when that season of conferences and Indian hotel pools filled with little Indian kids swimming around, yeah, having fun, and every once in a while you throw in an adult Indian into the pool, just to keep the balance. You know, we may have those times again, but they'll be different because we will be different as the living generation. We've had to strategize once again, particularly wherever you live, how you were going to connect despite all these new conditions. And voila, somehow the internet, became available through phones, through technologies. And we seen that. We seen people using what they had because it's necessary to connect. And when I was going to participate again today in the Power Hour, I was reflecting on the 61st week of the Power Hour, and what has generated this energy for people all over through this space once again gather for this 60 minutes, or today in the case where it was a little shortened. They gather for that same feeling, that same by the very act of listening, participating, dial in, hanging tough, watching it later, maybe on YouTube. If you're watching it on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, any of the other, all the platforms that are available to us now, they are coming with that same intention, because you could see the description of the Power Hour. It's where it was birthed in the pandemic. And it's kind of like one of those microwave bursts, or maybe that's not a good analogy, but it's kind of like it was a thing of necessity, as many of our nations were calling people home, or if you lived outside in somebody else's traditional territory in the cities where you were called to go home, to stay at home, to create that safety bubble at the beginning of the pandemic. And that was necessary. I seen a chart last week, and it was put out by the government. And we know, right? We know sometimes like the glimmer of truth gets out when all that data and stuff. But I seen that Indians or Alaska Natives were vaccinated more than anybody else in the United States. That our communities had responded out of necessity. And whatever people on the outside from our worlds write about that, what is important is that we made it okay for our communities. The people got together that had access. They fed people in their communities. They shopped for other people. They made sure that at those special times of the year that there was something delivered for elders, for children, and they helped. When it became apparent that there was going to be a new lifestyle put on people, The other thing I seen come back, and I'm just gonna say it, is, you know, people got real comfortable in how they were showing themselves in public and online. But some people, they didn't give up. They hung tough for a while, and but you seen people actions of necessity, and people shared them on social media. You seen the development of the social distance powwow. You seen conferences starting, webinars, Zoom calls. You've seen people start exchanging and teaching art because they knew that we had to create again an environment where it's going to be okay. And we started sharing on platforms. They say they're free, but Indians more than anybody else know, that free thing, that English word has like, it's many faceted. It's like three-dimensional in a prism, rotating all at once. But you've seen the ingenuity of people use that to make it okay for other people that they didn't even know, or if they knew them, to make it okay. So in the wellness movement, that has always been an energy that, people plan events and they'll say, oh, what if nobody comes? Or, what if we're overrun? What if we don't have any food? And then as we gathered more and more together, people began to have other sayings to help people on their good works, on their wellness journey, on their wellness work, to develop ways to recapture again that balance and that sense of surety that our ancestors lived with, that their relatives would show up for them, that their needs would be, if they moved collectively, their needs would be met. They were confident. Their confidence was high in that, because we're evidence of that. All of us. If you're taking a breath today out there in internet dumb, we are evidence of that confidence that our ancestors had, that we would be okay. And so I've been the witness now in this generation of that very precise, heartfelt, beautiful spiritual energy put out there to make it okay. And that's been a part of my journey in participating in the Power Hour. And, first, I a couple months ago, I started saying the second year of the pandemic, and I was just like, this time we're in, because I'm not going to, my memories, yes, it will be always marked by the P word, but my memory of this time will be marked by those gestures of generosity, of connection, of caring, of gratitude, of sharing of whatever good you had. I really was amazed, and I still am, by the ability of where I live and the other reservations and other cultures that I've read their stories when they're shared, about how people began to, once again, they didn't ask permission to take care of our communities. They just did it. And that's because the confidence that the ancestors had in the durability of our way of life, our connections, our traditions, our moccasins, our food, our laughter, our songs, our very physical beings. They had that confidence. They lived it. It helped us endure. And so I seen what I would describe in English, I seen that sovereignty over wellness, that energy to make it okay. And now that we're in this time, and many individuals, once again, were asked to change, we're asked to go back to activities that existed before, but we have to remake them. It's just like when the computer came into the classroom and the chalkboard began to take on an auxiliary role. Well, for the education of anybody, adult or child, didn't matter if you were educating yourself, teaching yourself a new skill through the internet or through being online, you have switched how people will learn. We all participated in like a collective flow to say that learning can be different. And those traditions that maybe in our communities are inherited from an earlier era, like the boarding school era or the mission school era, we have an opportunity in our communities to begin to really, all those actions of wellness and connection that we had when people were at home and care of the student, concern for what they were going through, wanting to make it okay, wanting to still feed children. All of those things are going to produce in the future like innovation. So in this process during the pandemic, we have collectively started to leave things behind and to change things. Because why adopt and bring into your home something that won't work for you? And you see innovations, how people relate, how I think for my community, this is graduation season for many people this month and next month. And I see the little Head Start folks from down the road in their little graduation cap and gowns. And they were all sitting there and they all had their little masks on and the little beaded caps. And they were just, so sweet. Those little warriors that completed their Head Start year during a pandemic, when they look back and they have memories of that time, there'll be memories of what fun they had. There may have been hardships, but they were celebrating their graduation. And lucky, grandmas are really adept at sharing their grandchildren's, or any child really, their child and everything, the French child, anybody on social media. So there you've seen this little group of little warriors that those pictures are enduring. They're like the pictures of the ancestors that we see from a century ago or 200 years or 150 years ago, where we are their witnesses to they made it okay for themselves by completing Head Start. And their expectation is now they'll go into kindergarten. Now they'll go to first grade. Now they'll go into whatever, school system or continue at home education. And in the collective movement that we've been in, one of the things I have to say is that in every Indian home where a child learned or accepted their schoolwork and that became their learning environment, it's like a collective reimagining that we're overcoming that legacy of the boarding school, of the residential school, of the mission school, because children took back that education and not being removed from the home. Yes, they need support. Yes, there were things that did not work. There were challenges that the struggles that people live with, in our communities. And those children lived through those struggles, but they also changed how they interacted with school. And we're going to have to see what we can take and support in the future for the changing of education of our community members, of other community members. And I think that the collective voice from Indian country that is emerging around not just educating our children, but creating safety for them and creating opportunity and support. I am looking forward to what manifests from this past year, because that energy has already started. It reminded me very much like the wellness activities of that I've seen as a young person, as a teenager, as you know, throughout my life over the last 30 years, those glimmerings of those seeds having been sowed. And when they get more light, more water, it's like when a young sapling grows. That's kind of what this first year of the pandemic was. The struggle may be there to become that sapling that grows into a tree. And so I was reminded of that. And I've told myself over and over this last little while, Indians are going to be okay, because it's become clearer what we need to tend to. Because those things that have endured, that cause disruption in our wellness force, have become clearer what we have to tend to. And that clarity comes from us not stripping naked, but stripping down through the pandemic, where every person has been reminded of like the basic teaching, like for my people, that the Creator, what they give is that breath. And so as people begin, I have to keep an eye on my time, as people begin now that, you know, a lot of people are vaccinated, and our communities again are starting to reimagine and regather flesh to flesh, or not, you know, not like we're all sticky, you know, but Indians get sticky. Like, you know, have you ever been at a Northern Plains powwow in the summer, you know, in the stands, like, you know, people, you get sticky. But we are all coming together now again, and many tribes are starting again it's like a slow trot out from their communities to go to events, to begin to travel again, to put a toe out as the tourists come into your territory, to kind of measure what their impact will be. And through this period, now that we are going to be re-socializing again, with this awareness that we're bringing from our pandemic. And one of the things that we can see is happening in the outside environment is, it's not all, it's not always the deluxe hamburger that you get when you start re-socializing. And we see that of some of the events that are going on. But when we gather in those large cultural gatherings again, when the border opens up on both hemispheres, the southern and the northern, when we are able to collectively again start moving through cultures, through friendships, reconnecting in person, getting socialized what it means to travel during this time, to welcome people back home. There are people that have had to sit out, and where they are still waiting. They may have to wait another year or another 6 months, 8 months before they could see their relatives and gather with them. But during this process, sometimes old habits, because of come back up. And sometimes people they're not sure they want to go re-socialize again. It's like, they're like, I got this isolation down. It's okay with me. I only see my 23 cousins. That's it. My universe is 24 people, including myself, shrunk down. And so sometimes in wellness, one of the tools is that people would make periodically replan for themselves. What is going to keep me balanced? What is going to keep me healthy? Do I need to take care of something now that I become aware of a behavior I always thought that I chose was actually from something that happened to me when earlier in my life, or maybe the generations back from me. And so making a plan of how you take care of yourself when you're going to re-socialize is a good idea, because that's how you can make it okay for yourself as you re-socialize. Because we are human beings and we're tribal people. We form relationships and have relatives, friendships all over. And people often will refer to friends as my sister, my brother, because that concept really of broadening your relative group, if you want to say, is part of recognizing that connection you have with people. All relationships have that integrity, and that value as a spiritual connection between two living beings. And really, people, when they're getting ready to reconnect again, and you have to plan for, maybe get a bunch of little gifts. I can also remember this one elder. Now she's on the other side of the veil, but she would, no matter, because she traveled quite a bit, she always had this one closet when you came into her house. And when you opened up that closet, yes, it was for clothes, or somebody who made the house said, this is for clothes, this is where all your shoes go and stuff. But to her, that was where she had kept all her giftings. So she always had like all these stuff that whoever came to visit at her house would get a gift. And one time the one time I got to see in that closet, because it was quite impressive. She said, wait a minute, I'm looking for something for you. So she was going through her inventory, and when she seen what she was going to give me, she said, oh yes. And it's like one of her treasures that she had bought with the intention of gifting. And I've thought a lot about that in the last couple of days, about how she didn't know when there was who sometimes would receive the gift. She just knew that it was something that she liked, something that the person who was supposed to receive it would show up. Someday it would be given to the right person. And I was thinking about that confidence that she had in those relationships, that trust she had, that those connections she formed with people, that gift would travel on really that faith of connection, and it would go to the right person that was supposed to accept it. And so in re-socializing now, and starting to venture out, accepting, staying up on what you need to take care of your physical health, to I believe this will still continue, so I am just going to continue. But to assure that all the children that still need to wear masks in public places, but to ensure that the children that are in your life, that they themselves are kept safe. I have the confidence, I trust in people's valuing the relationships in their life. And that is part of a plan to re-socialize. I am encouraged by last year. I just loved all the innovations of the graduations and communities that people shared. Many of my young relatives, my not so young relatives, committed, finished certifications, completed their degrees, graduated from high school, from academies, and just how innovative people were, how they trusted in the faith of those relationships. That, some people for the first time let their parents take again pictures of them, as teenagers. They agreed to have their prom broadcast on their parents, social media pages, and just really people exercising that confidence, supporting each other, and showing the good times their family members and their friend circles, their colleague circles, their professional working circles, their working family, of things that they shared. And so in this time, in wellness, sometimes when people are changing behavior, or they're practicing behavior or new behaviors, or they're taking a healthy risk, maybe they're going back to school for the first time, maybe they're going to apply for a job that they've always wanted, and they begin to prepare for those times. I wanted particularly to talk about one technique as people were going to take those new ways of being in their wellness journey. And this comes from one of my friends that, now pretty soon this summer will be nearly 2 years because of the closing of the Canadian border that I haven't seen her in real life. But I learned this valuable technique from her about whenever she would have like a phone call, or maybe she was going to do a presentation or teach a class or do a performance, and some old habit of, or maybe some old echo of that didn't serve her well, and maybe was told to her as a child, would come up, and what she would do to be okay to move forward and pursue her dreams, or whatever goal she had set for herself. She would take a glass of water. So I had a glass of water, fill my water today, and she would mindfully drink the water. So she would take a sip, she would wait, she would take a sip, and one time she told me that she had this particularly, she was going to have a telephone interview for this job that she very much wanted. And she said that she had to drink 2 glasses of water, but she always used that technique to help that water. She trusted that as she drank that water, it would help bring in to bolster up that new energy that she was using to pursue and move forward on her wellness journey. So she had those 2 glasses of water. She did great on that interview, and she ended up having securing that job. And it was a flourishing of many decades of her professional work, and it was a change. And so during this time, during the pandemic, I have been very mindful, particularly the last couple of weeks as things have been opening up and broadening, or um, and really negotiating when I leave the reservation, because what happens in the state is different than what happens here at home, to make sure that I have enough water, that I have taken care of that part of my body, because water helps all the little electrical, the polarity of our bodies. It helps us function at our optimum. And so in wellness, there's a lot of techniques to say, you're okay. It's going to be okay. And having water is something that's available, and hopefully it's clean water, because, you know, in Indian country, we still have to really be cautious of if we live in towns that were originally started as maybe forts or military outposts or trading posts, and the development of those water systems developed from the fort out, the fort history. And or if you live in a city and maybe there's been some discovery in your water, maybe with like all the folks in Texas found out, you know, electricity moves water, is used to move water. So when it doesn't move, you know, people have been conscious now of the water available to them. And I think Indian country, we've always, in the recent generations, that has always been our concern. But water is our friend. That relationship we have is just like the breath. Those ingredients that the Creator has gifted us on earth, water is one of them. And it helps our life stay connected to all living things. So the other thing that in a few minutes, I'll just go over a couple minutes, but that I wanted to talk about, that in wellness, there are a lot of rites of passage. There are a lot of moments when people decide they're going to show respect to themselves. And sometimes they are learning how to do that. They are self-parenting, they're reparenting, and they are nurturing themselves by respecting themselves. And so often I learned from other supportive folks in the wellness movement to really accept that I am okay. In this moment, I am okay. And that it is going to be okay. And over the many things that I've done, you know, going to conferences, going to traditional healing gatherings, myself, taking myself out and going among the, you know, out on the land, among the trees. This morning I told myself, when I go to this one place on our reservation, right now it still has a lot of snow on it. I told myself, I'm just gonna give one of those trees a big old hug. Yeah, so I'm planning my tree hugging later on this summer. But really, to self-respect, respect of others, also has that expectation, that energy that you're going to be okay. To pursue those relationships, to pursue those dreams, those conversations, to ask for support, to give support. It's kind of like that closet of gifts. You're kind of like that. You have those internal gifts that the right moment will come and you will be able to gift that moment, that desire, that dream, that new friendship, that new opportunity. And so as we re-socialize, and you know how Indians love gifts, we're generous. I was reminded many times that on two sayings that I wanted to share with you today was a gift is not a gift until it's received. I was told that by many, many elder people along my way from different cultures. And then the other one that one of our elders, he's passed on, but from the blood reserve. And um, he told me one time when me and my friend, we had went up there and we had brought him a lot of food. And, and he said, after sitting down to the meal, he said, the greatest gift you can receive is to feed others. And not just give them a sandwich, although that's probably appreciated, but it's the same thing too, is that when you gift, when you interact with people in a good way to make it okay for everybody, you yourself are receiving something that you cannot have without first honoring that, giving it in respect. And then you get that in return. And that's how we make it okay. That's for the children of the world, for all the human family, is we start with to say, how can I, when I re-socialize, give a compliment, help somebody out, honor them with a gift, or, just drive the speed limit and give everybody on the road safety. I really, the thing about being okay, my last thing that I do want to share before I click off here is I once had a person in Italy ask me, how come everybody says okay in English? Because okay can mean a different stuff, but really the other thing I was thinking about is I watched a video of our traditional chief, Earl O'Person, and when he was done, when he felt everything had been met on occasion, he just went. So my Indian cue to my body is for that word okay is, again, good enough. It's done. We've said it. And I hope my dream, my wish that I want to express right now is that it becomes okay for all of the human family members, for all the ages and all the generations. And the wellness movement, as we regather, reimagine, move into the future, I know it's going to be fantastic and it will be okay for all of us. So I just want to thank you for hanging in on the Native Wellness Power Hour. And please join tomorrow on whatever platform you watch it on during the noon hour Pacific time. And I wish you wellness and I wish you a good day. Thank you.